usually any economic growth is always accompanied by stability and political stability also. And this is the subject of our first presentation. It's going to be presented by Dr. Qahtan. Dr. Qahtan is going to explain for us about the economic policies through which different governments in Yemen tried to offer something, even if it's simple, to the economic situation in Yemen. Dr. Qahtan is Professor of Economics, Faculty of Administrative Science, Taiz University, Yemen. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Good morning. Of course, in a conference like this, we should shed light. It actually sheds light on all the Yemeni urgent problems which were supposed to be discussed and dealt with and solved in early time, but to come late better than never coming at all, not to come at all. And I think that the economic issue is one of the primary issues from which Yemen is suffering, or because of which Yemen is suffering. Now we all realize that the economic situation in Yemen has deteriorated a lot, and the humanitarian situation also deteriorated because of the deterioration of economics. And the problem I wanted to talk about is about economic policies and the government policies for sustainable economy in Yemen. It is known that sustainable development before 1992 wasn't known before that date. People used to talk about economic and social development. However, sustainable economic development was created as a term after 1992, after the UN a conference about Earth, environment, and in which the economic and social aspects were discussed. And after that date, people started giving more importance to sustainable development. And it means that the recent generation shouldn't consume all the economic sources, but think about the coming generations. It means that it will use the available resources for their needs recently and for the needs of the coming generations. All countries after this conference, Earth Conference, they were committed to implement the targets of development 2030, and we can say that these are UN targets and aims, and it's very important that all countries will implement them. What are the tools that are needed to implement and to achieve these goals? Of course, we all know that it's very important to put plans. We should have plans for development, economic development and social development. As you know that Yemen before 1990, it was two countries, two parts, in the south and one in the north. And after that date, unity. After unity, we had the government of unity, Yemeni unity. And now we are going to talk about the role of this government in achieving sustainable development. It was supposed since 1992 to start planning for development. Unfortunately, political clashes started, and that is why the government was unable to achieve anything. This before 1994. I think 1994 is the year of going back and start of deterioration of economics. Everybody think that the economic deterioration started at 2015, but actually it started since war of 1994, and economics started suffering in the country. And whoever studies this file closely can understand that deterioration started from that date. As for the government, the role of the government, it was limited to prepare a program for reform. This was issued in 1995 because in 1994 we had war and economic deterioration in Yemen began at that year. And then the Economist Party started to have cooperation with another party to achieve unity. And after this deterioration, then there was a trend towards a new way in development. That's why the International Monetary Fund and international banks interfered to rescue the economic that was mixed after the relapse, and that is why after 1994 these two entities want to reshape the economic sphere in Yemen, and that is why they came up with a program to reform economic in Yemen. But what happened actually, although a lot of money was spent, around $11 billion, the results were that it was sold, the public institutions were sold to private sector, and for low price. It wasn't a good deal, and no procedures were followed to ensure qualitative transformation of these institutions from being public to be private, resulting that the government is deprived from the public institutions, and the government, instead of being able to lead the country, it is led by the International Bank and the International Monetary Fund, and they now only waiting for aid, international aid, and take loans, facilitated loans, in order to achieve the goals of development, sustainable development. And that's why the first 50-year plan was drawn from 1996 to 2000. Also, in this period of time, a number of targets were announced. Funds was foreign aid, and they targeted poverty, employment, and to rebuild the infrastructure, a strong infrastructure for Yemeni economics. But nothing of these goals and targets were achieved. And they moved to the second plan in 2001 till 2000. Was repeated as in the first plan, and the same targets and aims were drawn, but different ones, different aims also were added. And the funds that were allocated to this plan were most of them just loans from outside Yemen, and these were spent without reaching any of the global development. And now I will move to the third plan, which took place between 2006 and 2010. And in this plan, they focused on facing poverty, but the results and what Yemen lives today is that poverty escalated because in this plan didn't give its fruits. On the contrary, the results were not good in reality. In order to show you the deterioration and relapse happened in Yemen, I will give you just an example. Since 1995, this deterioration happened annually. There is no chart. We can say that during the first few years after unity of Yemen, since 1990 till 1994, economic was flourished, and the price of dollar exchange rate was stable as 19 riyal. This happened between 1990 and 1994, but after war, immediately in 1995, the exchange rate became 250 riyals. It means that the riyal lost around 95.2 of its value. And this is an indicator of how the economics deteriorated. Of course, this continued because after 2010, revolution took place in 2011. And of course, after revolution, we had war. In 2014, another relapse happened. In general, during the years called the transitional years after revolution, there was a government formed, and it was asked to develop the economic Most of the government tried to make some plans and programs. I remember this plan, 5-year plan, and the other one, and some other programs for investment and other things. What they made in order to meet the targets and goals of development 2030. All of these plans and programs didn't give fruits. On the contrary, we had a relapse and relapse and relapse until the full deterioration we live today. It started since 1994, 1995. 95% economic deterioration happened, and it went on until the transition period after 2011, and the new Basandawa's government came into office, and it made some changes, and some improvement in economics. And this might be noted through the exchange rate of dollars, because they became 215 instead of 250 after 1994. Meaning that the percentage of deterioration went from 95.2% to 94.4%. Afterward, in 2015, and of course it closed, the deterioration again happened, and it continued. And if we depend on exchange rate as an indicator, we see that the deterioration went on and on along this period of time until we can say that the national currency lost its value. And we now in 2025, after the president of the government and the central bank cooperated, and there was a new monetary policy adopted to stabilize and fix the exchange rate, and which resulted in some improvement around 30%. I think now we got your point, that although we had different governments and different programs and plans, deterioration went on. Yes, we talked about these programs and the lines of development. These are the means and tools used by the government, but unfortunately they couldn't reach any of their goals and targets. There were deterioration going on. In brief, no single goal of development was achieved. Our recommendations, I have a number of recommendations. We can go back to them in our discussion, because we have another presentation by Dr. Abdulghani Jaman about the problematic issues faced by these plans and policies. Abdulghani Jaman. I'm here, I'm with you online. Sorry, time finished. We will go back to it. Okay, we'll come back to the recommendations after that. Forgive us. I remember that I witnessed all these things mentioned, but yes, deterioration was going on and on. Every time we do a policy for reform, the situation deteriorated more and more. So one of the issues that maybe were not solved is the economic and administrative corruption. We now have Dr. Abdul Ghani Jahman, who is our guest from Germany, about the disastrous liquefied gas agreement in Yemen. He is an economic, legal, and technical analyst and vision builder for redirecting exploitation towards citizen priority. He is oil expert and consultant in natural resources development, Germany. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for Tawakkol Karman Foundation, for the audience. Also, I was supposed to sit among you and be there physically, but the my passport is Yemeni, and it's a big problem wherever I want to go all around the world. Thanks for opening the opportunity for me. What Dr. Mohammed Qahtan said caused a very big fuss in the media about what are our resources, what do we have actually. That's why we can find some talking about there is a cloud of gas in Tehran, and that we don't know how much productivity we have and production we have from oil. And some people say all these countries have some desires to put their hands over our treasures of oil and minerals. I will put you today to reflect what Dr. Mohammed Qahtan just said in numbers. Let's talk numbers here. When I called it the curse of oil, it is the curse of oil because we only depend on oil. We don't have any commodity. Actually, we didn't have any other commodity, but now even oil we cannot sell it. This is daily oil production in Yemen from 1986 to 2023, and this is available in a number of international reports. If we look at this production, daily production in Yemen, to reflect what Mohammed Qahtan just said, he said that in 86 we discovered oil. In 94 we can see an up. The line goes up. But we have resources here, but exchange rate doesn't change, and this is a very big problem. It doesn't improve. Of course, we have the first plan, second plan, five-year plan. There were zero development happens, although we have a very high production here in the peak, 45,000 barrels a day. This number, which you should keep in mind, we didn't exceed 500,000. And after 2002, 2004, oil production started going down and down till we reached 2011. We know a revolution, and we know that the basic problem of this, that the eliminating support from some places. That's why Dr. Ahmad Sarwa started talking, complaining about deficiency in the treasury of the state, and then we have some economic problems, and deterioration happened, and destruction happened, and most of the oil company left us in December 2014, and that is why we couldn't have production, and then we stopped totally our production in 2022 when Houthis aggressive attack on the and other ports. So during this period of crisis, as we mentioned earlier, that now we live in a conflict not only on resources but also on identity. Hadarima wants Shabarma wants another state. In the north, they want a number of states. And everybody says oil is ours. So it is the curse of resources. First one, oil is the ownership was oil for whom and who has the right to produce it and use it. So these are the problems that should be discussed if political people decided to come together and talk. If somebody says, what is the our production that we have 3.5, there is a CI report in Yemen before war, and it went back from 449,000 to less than this, and then it went again less, and this is a challenge for us. Is it possible to go back with it to 100, 150? I don't believe it's going back there because we need new discoveries if we have to produce that much, but recently we don't have. As a reference, Saudi Arabia have 270 billion barrels. To know just our size, our resources are scarce, they are rare and little. So what are the barrels that where did they go? The money we achieved from it, the revenues reached $164 million, and we should ask about these billions of dollars. Where did they go, and why didn't the plans give their results? Because the expenditure was not wise. They were spent in places that were not correct. Can we depend on oil as a source to build our economy on it? Unfortunately, no, because the reservation we have is only 15%. We don't have a new projects to survey, to discover, to find new oil. So if you want to build a state, don't depend on oil. Let's go from oil to talk about gas. Yes, we have around 18 trillion gas. It goes most of them in Maghreb and in Shabwa, and less of it in Hadramaut, because Hadramaut is when there is gas and oil, Marek and Shabwa have more. Unfortunately, our reserves there, we sold them in September 1995 to Total company for 10 trillion of their reserve. And hence, company said, I need to be a partner, and it entered a total 20%, and we tried to sell them gas. We couldn't find a buyer. Koreans came in to buy part of it, 20% of the Korean companies, and also a little bit remained for the gas institution. Of course, there were attempt to increase from 5 to 6 million ton to our exports, and also we allocated a number of them to produce electric energy, and it deteriorated from 3 trillion to 1 trillion. When you travel from Sana'a to Marib, you can notice at left side Mabar and a very big place, construction place. It looks like construction place. It was the beginning of a project for pipes, but unfortunately it was stopped. We gave Total the essence of the Yemeni gas, and the normal citizen who used to have a dream to lighten their homes with electricity and to fill their cars with the gasoline. Now they lost their hopes. Thank you so much, Dr. Abdul Ghani. I think We all share these pains with you, that we lost our resources in our country, and this is one of the problems Yemen faced when we talk about economy and oil resources. There was a big waste and loss and corruption. Yes, you can see in this slide the size of our problem. When we sold it for 5 years, we got only 5% of it, 12 billion to the partners and 1 billion only for Yemen. If I can tell you that revenues in Saudi Arabia is better, more better than our revenues in Yemen. Gas project, 5 point around 5 or more than 5 trillion, and this is a very big problem. That is why we need to focus on enlightening Yemen instead of lighting Paris with our gas and through national projects. Thank you so much, Dr. Abdul Ghani. There is a sad connotations in the numbers we can see, and we can see that there is a very problematic management for our resources, and this is what led us to this reality. And our third intervention by Dr. Yahya Abdel Ghaffar. Dr. Yahya Abdel Ghaffar is the teacher of economics and professor of economics and dean of faculty of administrative sciences in Taz University. The floor is yours.
In the name of Allah, who said the Quranic verse فَأَمَّا الزَّبَدُ فَيَذْهَبُ هُبَاءً وَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسَ فَيَبْقَى فِي الْأَرْضِ, which means, and those who things who is important to the people and beneficial will stay, and the not important thing and not beneficial will go away. So, and from this verse, we would like to say that we have in Yemen an opportunity to recover, and in this day we have the first economic conference in Taz University last year in similar days of these days, in order to diagnose the economic problem in Yemen and to find solution for them, with the participant of more than 100 researchers and more than 1,600 for those who are stakeholders, and with remotely attendees who attended online. This economic conference came up with recommendations and a lot of results, and they were a matrix of measures that talked about the economic access, some recommendations, and how we can implement them, and the responsible entity for the implementation. And some of the recommendations were touched in the central bank decisions. Today we want to be optimistic and to understand the situation of the students, teachers in Yemen, and to tell them that we want to help them. And it was the first scientific conference that happens in the Republic in Yemen, and hopefully we will continue with its procedures and the implementation of its recommendations. And we will talk about some of the features of the economy in Yemen. We worked on putting Yemen in a humanitarian crisis that history has not witnessed any similar thing to it, and it affected the settlement of Yemen and the economy of Yemen and the infrastructure of Yemen. GPD lost more than 126 billion USD dollars. That's why we are trying to describe the economy in Yemen in order to achieve three goals. Study the impact of war on Yemen. So the methodology was a descriptive way of research. So now we will discuss the results. First, we described the variables of the economy of Yemen. The most important one is the GDP. We measure with GDP how the economy is developing. The GDP, when we say that we witnessed a big decrease of GDP in Yemen of a percentage of 58%, which is a very big percentage, and it means that a destruction in the infrastructure, a stop in some of the big investment, and it will lead to some of cease the work in some of the vital fields of work, which led to a loss of jobs, and the economy changed from the positive growth to a negative growth to minus 2.5%. As we see here in this graph, the curve between the growth and the real GDP, you find a negative growth rate, which is a very dangerous indicator. The second indicator is the inflation and the purchase power. So the first goal for any economy is to stable the prices and to fight the unemployment and to find job opportunities. The rates of inflation led to the decrease of the power of purchase for citizens of 75% and to raise their percentages of poverty up to 80%, which increased the poverty in the country. And here you are seeing also the rates of the unemployment, how it increased in 2023, and in 2025 we witnessed the worst inflation rates. The exchange rate, you can see here in this graph the relationship between the exchange rate and the monetary we had more so in this year the budget deficit increased magnificently. The exchange rate became 1,060 in 2023, and these numbers show us the destructive impacts of the war, and we have different exchange rates in the different parts of the country, which increased inflation in a catastrophic rates. In this table, you can see the exchange rate and how it is related to the supply of money. It used to be stable till 2015, but between 2016 and 2023, the exchange rate started to increase. And all of these will lead to the decrease in the power of purchase and will increase the deficit of the budget. The general balance, as for the general budget of the government, you can see how we have a big deficit here. and we need more governance, and they are increasing the expenses as if we are not in a war situation. Exports got decreased. Why we increased the imports, it reached $5 billion and $12 million, when the exports are $4 billion. And the most important indicator, which is the stability, we don't have a political stability. The study shows that there is a reverse relationship and a direct reverse relationship between the political stability and the economic situation. So the political stability is a main factor for the and all of that affected the capability of the government to This is one of the most important indicators in order to describe the Yemeni situation on the political level. So the more political level and to have a continuous sustainable peace will lead to economic recovery. If we need to do a structural reformation and unifying the central bank and the monetary institutions, all of this will help to regain the trust in the state, and we will define the deficit and we need to reform the monetary and financial policies in order to grant stability in the exchange rates and to work on better control for the export of oil and to put better rules for the import. As for the international acts, we need to have a diplomatic effort that will create more, bring more assistance to the state and to invest the money in the best way possible. We need coordination between all local and international parties and to unify the economic institutions, which is the most important step towards building a better future for Yemen and Yemenis. And thank you so much. Thank you, Doctor, for your presentation. I think you ended your word with an optimistic remark, and I hope that we stay optimistic in the future. The opportunities to achieve the economic prosperity is there. The Yemeni wisdom should be in working in this domain. So I want to open the way, the door for Dr. Abdelkader Abdullah for his intervention. I forget to introduce Dr. Abdelkader Abdullah. He is an activist and a political researcher. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy I'd like to thank the organizers who enabled this great group of elite researchers to gather here to talk about very important topics in relation to Yemen. And I wish that we can come up with a very qualitative recommendations, untraditional one, after this meeting, and to follow up tangibly on the implementation of the recommendations that we will reach. In front of you here, the Yemen facing the regional challenges with the economic leverages. Actually, to be short, the paper is talking about a scenario for a future perception for Yemen and how they are dealing with its neighbors. We are trying, or this paper wanted to highlight the most important economic leverages of Yemen that can be the axis of our talk on the horizons of the future relationship. To talk on this topic is not a new thing. The Yemen tried tens of years ago to create a path for this relationship, but there was a lot of obstacles. Each one had reasoning behind it. We try to draw this scenario, and we will try to benefit from it by looking to it from an angle that takes care of the variables. And we will look at the last 15 or 10 years. Of course, there are a lot of variables, but we will take them into consideration when we are talking about the relationship between them, and we will try to take into consideration some of the traps that it will hinder our work if we did not pay attention to them. The first trap was not to think of the Gulf Ways role, the role they played in making Yemen reach the current situation. So the first trap is the Gulf country. They are still insisting on keeping silent and not talking about their role. It is a very important role. So if you want to talk because of the reasons behind Yemen backwardness, it's not in their genes, of course, but there are a lot of factors that participated in this. Also the internal situation, the legal political situation, and also the surrounding environment had a big role in making Yemen in this situation that it is now. The second trap, which is related to the first one, which is also the Gulf country continuing to show the things they are providing for Yemen as if it is a way to manage their authority or power. I heard an interview with Al Gaber where he spoke about 19 billion since the beginning of the war. Of course, we do not deny that they are spending money. If we calculated the amount of money they spent since the September coup, of course, it is big money, but they were not spent on development. So to show this kind of support in a way that they are trying to manage their control in Yemen. So they spend a lot of money, but as if they are giving us a sadaqah and as if it is a philanthropic action. But they are actually trying to correct what they already did to us. The third trap is that the neighboring country should not continue in claiming that they are unable to forcing Safa Sharia, their allies, to make what they want, because they have a lot of allies and they can direct them and force them with different ways to do the things they want. So they could have saved our country, and they are places that we cannot claim that it is difficult to enter from for security reasons, because there is Houthis, but in contrast, Mahran to Bab al-Mandab, all of this area can be entered, and they can provide us a model by helping their allies. And each country has an ally that they can direct in the way they want. They are really want to have a good relation and mutual interest for both parties. These are the three traps that they are very important, and we need to take them into consideration. In the study, we are looking into the chronological order of events. I will not talk about it into details. As for the regional challenges, what I mean by it, that we have certain relation between Yemen and its neighbors, and it is well known to everyone. But with the presence of such challenges, let me say that it is possible to change these the challenges into opportunities. So we need to turn challenges into opportunities, and there are variables, internal variables, that will help us to move from the mentality of individual work to the mentality of collective work. And it's not only about women. We have the report from UNDP for 2024. They focused on the level of the whole world on this issue, that the whole world need to start to think in this way, to work collectively to solve the problem of development and to solve the problem of their countries. This is not a new thing. This is an international trend now, and the study wanted also to unveil some of the important leverages for the economy in relation to the neighboring countries. And I think in this table we have this referral to certain things that we will discuss in details. We have first the fields of oil and gas. Some people think they are not so much, but it is a starting point. We need to develop these resources. I don't say that it is the only resource, but we already have them, and we are talking about them. But that does not mean that there is no more undiscovered fields of oil and gas. There are. So we need first to have also, the mining is very important. We have a lot of metals like gold, like zinc, like diamonds. We have confirmed reserves of those, and we can see them here in the fourth column. And Gulf countries might have an interest to deal with Yemen in such issue. Also, the fisheries is very important, because it is there, but it's not invested well. So we need to invest in fisheries and to invest in fishing, and to turn this area to push the Yemenis into working in fishing, because the fish is there. You only need to go and to work in collecting it, and to take advantage of the available resources for you. The same thing applies to agriculture. Renewable energy also is a very important domain, and in Yemen we need to have a future for it in Yemen. It can be a good replacement for other resources of power. Also, the environment and tourism. It is very important to develop the relationship with neighboring countries, and it will be an entry to have this mutual relationship and to create mutual security for us and them in the different areas that can be turned into tourist areas. Also, our strategic location that forms a reason for us today and a reason for the biopolitical conflicts, but it can be turned into a positive thing. We have the Red Sea, we have the Arab Sea, and the Arabia Sea, and it is very important. And we have a lot of ports, and these are very important things. We can cooperate in the issue of ports with many countries. Many of the Gulf countries think that their interest is to not to develop certain ports in the area that is close to Bab el-Mandab, to other things. But if we continue to look at these things in this way, that will affect their national security and their stable life. All of this will be threatened as our stability is threatened. So we should look at this issue from this angle, not from another angle. Of course, there are difficulties, but all of the indicators show us, if we want to remember what happened through the past 3 or 4 years, their security is our security, and there is mutual points, and we have a mutual interest in this regard. Also, the new basis of this Gulf vision towards Yemen, I feel that we have good ideas. Of course, I think we have good signs for a better future. After February revolution, they tried to interfere and they tried to reach an agreement. We could have reached a historic agreement, but at the end, their role failed, and now they can play a new role to make the people in Yemen reach a consensus. Also, we have another indicator, which is the direct interference in the Yemeni file. Now they are part of it, and they are making the Yemeni political decision, and the Yemenis take action by their vision. And this is a new factor that should be taken into consideration. The Yemeni file is now under their direct effect, and to weaken Yemen is not acceptable anymore. We need more cooperation. The strategic opportunity is there to achieve peace in Yemen. They have an experience with the Houthis and not with the Safa Sharia. And even within Houthis, they can create agreement, and that's why we need to enhance the relationship. Also, there are changes that happens with Saudi Arabia. A lot of the traditional concepts are now rephrasing in a completely and radically rephrased. You can read their vision for 2030, and they are talking about the strategic location of Bab el-Mandab, etc. So in general, yes, of course, now there is a big intersection between their stability and our interests. Now, let me move to the recommendations, because I see that I about to finish my time. As for the recommendations, I will not repeat the same conclusions that the study had reached. And the leverages will stay there. Here, we are looking at the responsibility. It is a mutual responsibility, and the instability in Yemen is threatening the whole area, and we need to have or to witness a change in the Gulf state stances. After their central role in Yemeni files since 2011, the way for sustainable solution for the area is to empower Yemen to regain the state role and to achieve its economic stability. Yemen as a model for opportunity. And lastly, let me mention the project. The study included 6 possible projects that we worked on with the Gulf countries. And lastly, we have recommendations for 3 main recommendations for the Gulf countries. And the recommendations are to relying on Yemeni resources and the interests of stability in the Arabian Peninsula and the Gulf as basis for developing future relations, avoiding turning partnership into a performance to influence management only, and focusing on recreating sustainable independence, commitment to pushing Yemeni parties to an urgent and lasting peace agreement, recommendations for Yemen, the necessities of the emergence of the competent national leaders qualified to overcome the divisions and narrow interests and to build the state. And we need these leadership to build a state of institution capable of implementing the recommendations of this vision. And finally, let me conclude by a question that Dr. Ghumaidan said on the margin. If you have, and if I gave you 100 million to start to do something for Yemen, to develop Yemen, so as a political economy, this is my specialty. And he expected me to say that we will start with, for example, infrastructure projects, etc. But in my understanding, this 100 million should be spent on solving that last problem, to help the political summit and help the political parties to get rid of the old leaders and stubborn leaders, and to have new leaders who are more capable to run this process completely, the economic, social, and political processes, and that would be the good political basis. So without strong leadership, strong political leadership, we will not be able to achieve anything. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Dr. Abdullah. I think the points you ended with included the most important leverages, which is the human power, as Dr. Burhan mentioned. So the human power, and to talk what we talked about yesterday, the health, the education, these are the most important leverages. When I said $100 million, because to prove, when you prove that you can spend them correctly, then I will give you the money. But Yemenis did not prove till today that they are capable of spending such big amount of money correctly. And in the past, we had a lot of corruption, a lot of problem, but the leverages will stay there, and the human power and the human leadership are there, and are the one who will allow us to stay optimistic. Now I will give the floor to Dr. Tamara Al-Hakimi. Dr. Tamara Al-Hakimi works in the assisting economy in Taz University. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for Tawakkol Karman organization for making this conference successful. And thanks for everyone. As you can see through the presentation of the past sessions, I want my specialty on how to rebuild economy for Yemen. In the previous sessions, you would notice that all of the indicators does not show any optimism. Everything is collapsing. We have collapse in the exchange rates, we have instability in the GDP, also we have bad health situation, bad educational situation, and so we are in a very bad situation. After all of this, do you as attendees have any optimism that we will come out from this situation? Yes, so you are optimistic. Of course we are optimistic because we need to participate and to have something new to Yemen and to become one of the advanced countries. We know some countries who were in a worse situation than us, like Kenya. So these countries went through comprehensive destruction after the Second World War, and they were completely destroyed. Like Germany, they lost 11% of their citizens. They have deaths of millions, whilst in Yemen we have only thousands of dead people. So these countries were completely destroyed under Rwanda, after the nuclear war, and after they had also a civil war, and they had divisions, and they had sectarian divisions. And Japan also had a lot of wars, and each country suffered from certain problems and crises in comparison to the Yemeni situation. Despite all of these difficulties that this country faced, they were able to overcome them, and they were able to had leaderships who were able to lead through that period, and we don't have that. They had also a clear plan and a clear vision, and that helped them to achieve recovery. Also, Germany had the Marshall Plan through the countries who used to have sponsorship over Germany. In Rwanda, they needed to restructure their situation, and they had tyranny, and they had occupation, division, and the conflicts, and then they overcome what happened to them through the nationalist front by Gabi's leadership, and they had this vision. So all of these countries, we see that they got rid of their problems through a clear vision, a good leadership, and then they started to take procedures to make a quick reformation, like they stabilized the currency, they supported agriculture, and they give incentives for investment inside of these countries. Also, they regained the trust between the government and the communities through providing a lot of social support programs in order to keep stability. And we don't have these things. All of these things help these countries to move from backwardness to become a developed countries in relation to industry. They opened themselves to the world, and they directed all of the support they got towards the production and then to export their goods, and then they got developed and become developed from in the fields of technology. Everyone now hear of the industry in Japan and in Germany. Although Rwanda was from the developing countries and they were not an industrial country, but they were able also to overcome that phase and they directed all of the assistance to agriculture, and they gave a lot of importance and a lot of interest to education. They said that we need to take care of education, and they focused on the professional education, and they connected it with the job market, because after the war they needed a lot of human power. Also, women had a big role in rebuilding their economy, and they played a role in leveraging in moving the war rubble, and they worked also in factories and as psychosocial supporters. All of these countries became miracles. We have the Japanese miracle, the German miracle, also Rwanda, Singapore, and Africa. So we can overcome our situation and become better than them. We only need to have a vision, a clear vision, and a leadership. We need some lessons. We need a national leadership. We need to be unified. We need economic and monetary institutions that are unified. We need a national reconciliation. We need transitional justice. That is what happened in Rwanda. In Rwanda, they hold courts. They put a new constitution that banned any usage of sectarianism. So we need to support the national currency and to keep stability in our currency. We can benefit from all of these experiences, and we need to develop the human capital by correcting the situation of education, of professional training, and to make partnership with local communities, whether they are organizations or individuals. And also we need to know how to use the external support in the best way. Yemen is received big numbers of money from Saudi Arabia, $4 billion from Saudi Arabia. And now we received a lot of money from many other countries like USA. America gave us in 2019 $7.5 billion, for example. These are tangible realities, and that tell us that there is corruption in spending that money, and they are not focusing on development. So we need to build a collective national identity. Everyone wanted, the other country focused on leaving a national touch on their production. For example, in Japan, when it was occupied, and now nothing during the occupation, nothing indicated to the Japanese identity except for one meal, for example. Then they wanted to add some touch to their industry to show their identity. So we need similar things in Yemen. And we need to turn the challenges into opportunities and to invest in them in order to become an economically developed country. If peace happened, peace might also give us some advantages.
So if we reach stability and peace, of course, peace is always connected to development, to sustainable development. Local and international investment, like what Germany did in order to encourage people to invest. So also the government might connect its expenditure to direct its sources wisely, because the successful experience in Rwanda was built on governance and tackling corruption and holding people responsible, accountable for it. So we might give good environment for investments, even people who come from outside. For Yemenis who went to the diaspora, they might come back as investors. And also the private sector played a role in during war, because public services provided by state was none. So the private sector actually tried to bridge this gap. So maybe in the future it might play a role in rebuilding Yemen. Also about agricultural transformation, all the countries we refer to, Rwanda, Japan, and other countries, they pay attention to agriculture. We have expanded geography, we have rains, we have coastline, very long coastline. We can maybe also use we use water, the sea as water resource. Also, energy, when we talk about energy, as Dr. Abdul Ghani explained, we live in scarcity. We suffer from the scarcity of this energy, but we have sun, we have wind, we can utilize them to produce energy, and this is the blue and green economic. And local communities, the examples I gave, popular resilience and their support to their governments and states played a role for rebuilding economics in a successful way. So this is what has been actually proved during the past few decades, the role of communities in rebuilding. Also the third sector, we have also zakah, and we have also endowment or awqaf, but they are not activated well, and there is of course spread of corruption. So this third sector, if it is activated well with mechanisms of anti-corruption mechanisms, it might play a role as a resource for the state. We might also give a lesson from Turkey endowment experience, Malaysia's endowment experience, to provide a source for education, health, and other sectors. I have also a number of recommendations. I think all the papers refer to the importance of unification of financial institutions and institutional reform, that we deal with the aid from only to help families. If I give a family just a kilo of rice or sugar, they will use it and consume it within a limited period of time, but we need to support production, to support the centralization and empower the private sector. The use of resources should be very wise, and also paying incentives and focus on small scale and medium scale projects, and also the reason for the successful experiences from other countries, Rwanda and other things, that they had a fund allocated for these projects. Also, peace is a precondition. We need peace as a condition for economic recovery. Of course, this is my paper in short. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much. I think there are two issues we're dealing with here. The first one, They say you can gather 3-4 doctors to agree on diagnosis and a plan of treatment. You can gather engineers and they agree on something. But if you gather 3 or 4 economists, they will disagree. I disagree with you on your last point, saying that peace is a condition, because I think there are some tools and ways in which rebuilding economy will be a gate, an entrance to rebuild state, and not a precondition of its establishment and the peace that is needed for that. And you talked about the Yemeni miracle. And the second point is the slide that you didn't explain, which is this pyramid. We said it's not very important that we have a plan, a roadmap, that one results in 2 and 3 depends on 2. So, of course, because I put a very long roadmap, and this is only the short copy of it. It depended on 9 points, and I put standards and period of time and funding measures and other things. I just tried to give you a glimpse of it here. As you mentioned, yes, it's not necessary that we begin from safe and secure places like Hadramaut. It's safe and secure, and it's a very vast and spaces. You can use all the resources from this place to begin. Yes, it's not important to wait for the 9 leaderships to agree. No voice. The recommendation focused on recovery, and I think they were in the good direction. Yeah, I think you can build partial economic and local that will form maybe a focal point, starting point for the economy of the whole country or state. This is what we face also not only in Yemen but all around the world. We need to understand the reality in Yemen. We don't have data, but we read some reports, international reports, some experiences also, and some numbers we get from ground. So there is a study of the Rwanda in 2020. The plan went on 3 stages: short-term, medium-term, and long-term, and how they talked about reconciliation and peace and justice, transitional justice, and then how they moved the poor layer to medium or middle people, middle status people economically, and productive. And the most important thing is to have the ability and the will, political will, and everybody agrees that there should be a leadership that's national leadership, and a clear vision. Of course, strategic planning was very important in the other experiences, productivity, and other things. Yes, we had the vision, but it ended up with scandals like in the gas file. For Yemen, we should go back to the outcomes of the national dialogue. In the national dialogue was the reform the state to build a federal country. Building a federal country, it means to divide power and authority, and also to divide the federal system to use the wealth, national wealth, in a wise way, So if we go back to the constitution, which is one of the outcomes of the national discussions and talks, it is that the state will be reformed as a non-central state. It's going to be a united federal country, and it includes monetary aspects. That means that there should be a central fund, and according to the constitution project or draft, the productive provinces of oil and gas and other commodities, sovereign commodities, might take a percentage dedicated and allocated for them, for the producing provinces, and the biggest percentage goes to the fund of the central government, which makes the I will stop you here about distribution because Dr. Karman is smiling and maybe he's saying that we ran out of gas, we ran out of oil. Look, one of the positive points of this conference that it's gathered researchers and from field and academics. When I listened to your papers, you focused on reproduction of oil, but we didn't. What we discovered, we ate. Whatever we discovered, we sold, we ate, we consumed. Doctor says that there is a possibility to discover new resources, but it needs economic ability. You need money tomorrow, but this takes time. When we want to discover in Hadramaut shores, in Jove, in other areas, we need $2 billion, and give me time of 10 to 15 years in order to start giving you back benefits to the bank. We as specialists, we say that oil is no longer a resource, a sovereign resource. We buy petrol, we buy diesel more than what we produce of oil. We talked with Ali Lansi and a lot of people in the youth committee. We talked with them using number. Economists shouldn't think about oil anymore, think about fishery, ports, tourism, other resources. I said that for oil and gas, there is a big possibility and ability that we shouldn't rely on the exportation of oil as raw oil, but I'm talking about the refined oil that will cover the needs of the Yemen, and in one price. You set a price in all the provinces, and so we use not to import oil products, and this was a very good chance for us. They should reconstruct and also update our refineries in Maghreb, in Hadramaut, and others. What is available today is just to cover our needs in our local market. And if there is extra, we can go to export export any surpluses. As for oil and gas, we did a refinery station using gas, but it was supposed that all the refinery stations which use oil products will be converted to gas, because we have a lot of gas. And this is the problem, because Dr. Tamara said the Yemeni miracle, but I don't believe that Yemeni miracle will bring us oil and gas. The Yemeni miracle, what is it? That in these conditions of war, we should have diversity. Yes, we shouldn't depend only on oil and gas. There are some other abilities to use all the resources. I think the problem is not about resources. The problem is about how to manage these resources in an effective and useful way. Japan used to import 90% of its resources, and then it became this industrial and very developed country. Of course, there should be this surgical. Sometimes doctors go to surgery in order to cure a human body, and this is our beginning here. I'd like to thank people who organized this conference, and the science committee, and Dr. Tawakkol Karman, and our sister Hayat Takmani, who came here. Thank you. I just want to I have 1 hour 45 minutes. I still have only 20 minutes to go, 22 minutes to go. I just want to point at that economics don't agree or disagree. It's very normal, but it is all around the world, not only in Yemen. They are very practical. They are very thoughtful people, and any source that is a temporary source is not sustainable. So this is any logical thinking. You need to find other sustainable resources. We are in early area. Our neighbors are ready to help us and provide aid.